Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at Morningstar. This is a really neat analysis platform for long-term stock, ETF, and mutual fund investors. It has some really unique tools that are great for building a portfolio. And it also has some similarities and differences to platforms like Seeking Alpha and Stockrover. So I'll take a look at what makes Morningstar unique and help you decide if it's right for you. So let's dive right in. What we're looking at here is the Morningstar homepage. And look at gainers and losers on the day as well as news headlines. With the best part of this homepage though, is all of these articles. So this is looking at, for example, 10 stocks with fair value estimate increases, or AI stocks that are worth looking at today, or Vanguard funds that you should be looking at for value investing. All of these articles are giving you ideas for what you can be investing in. And they're written by real stock analysts at Morningstar, so they're worth trusting. And they're written by real stock analysts at Morningstar, so you can trust that they're good information. So we can dive into, to start the stock page. And here we'll see, again, there's just more articles. So we can look at cheap and dependable dividend growth stocks, bank stocks to buy, stock picks in the apparel industry. And if we click on these articles, what I like is that they get straight to the point. So here are the 5 best bank stocks to buy right now. And then if you dive in, Morningstar actually tells you a little bit more about each of these stocks and why they think they're a good choice. And I'll show you Morningstar's analysis tools in just a minute. We can dive further into each of these stocks to look at things like their fair value relative to their price, a full analyst report, and more. So Morningstar gives you all the information you need to find stocks and then analyze them and decide if they're right for your portfolio. Another thing I want to show you are some of the lists that Morningstar has built in. So if we scroll down, we can see there are 5-star stocks. Morningstar uses a 5-star rating system. So these are highly rated stocks that Morningstar analysts think are worth buying. There's also some other pre-made lists. One I really like is this Moats on Sale. So these are highly rated companies that are priced below their fair value and also have a large economic moat. So companies like Amazon or Apple that really don't have any competitors that come near them in terms of the products and services they can offer. So this is a really nice list for finding stocks that have a long-term potential and are on sale right now compared to their fair value. So if we look over at ETFs and mutual funds, you're going to see a similar set of articles. So just in this case, we're looking at ETFs and mutual funds instead of individual stocks. One thing to note that's different here is that Morningstar assigns ETFs and mutual funds star ratings on that same 5-star scale, but it also awards these bronze, silver, and gold medals. Often the medals are assigned based on how a fund has performed over a large number of years, whereas the star ratings are based more on what analysts see in terms of the near future for a fund. And again, if we scroll down just a little bit further, we can see there are built-in lists. So for example, best dividend funds, index funds, bond funds, and growth funds. Really useful to dive into these lists and be able to just immediately pick out top performing ETFs and mutual funds to add to your portfolio. Now, one quirk of Morningstar is that a lot of the pro features are actually not on the main Morningstar page. They're in this investor platform, and this is only available to Morningstar subscribers. So when we launch this, we'll see the performance of our portfolios on the right here, updates about any holdings that we have that are changing value, and we can see ratings changes based on our watch list. So these are upgrades or downgrades for stocks that are in our watch list. Now, this is a great time to show you the individual stock analysis and fund analysis features that Morningstar has. So if we look, for example, at Apple stock here, we can see it is 2 stars out of the possible 5 that Morningstar assigns. It has a fair value of $170 compared to a last price of close to $190. There's some uncertainty medium in this fair value analysis. Morningstar thinks that it would take a price below about $119 to reach 5 stars. So right now we have a ton of information right away about this stock and how it's valued relative to its price. So we can identify, if you're a value investor, you can look at this information and immediately decide whether or not Apple stock is right for you. Some more information that's really helpful. Morningstar assigns ESG risk ratings to every stock as well as controversy levels. So really great for conscious investors who are looking at environmental, social, and governance factors. Another thing I really like about Morningstar is that if we scroll down, we'll see this analyst take. This is a relatively lengthy 10 to 20 minute read all about Apple stock written by a Morningstar analyst. This is really detailed information explaining the fair value estimate that Morningstar has given this stock. So it's really helpful to be able to read this and generate a sense of why a stock is or is not worth buying. Now, if we scroll down past this analyst report, we can get even more information about this stock. We can see price versus fair value over time. This is a deeper dive into these ESG ratings, as well as trailing returns over time versus the industry and the index. In this case, the S&P 500. And then, of course, Morningstar gives you important financial and fundamental information here. We can look at balance sheets, income statements, and cash flow, as well as valuation changes over time, dividends, and more. And then one other thing I really like is this ownership tab. So typically what you'd see is institutional ownership. This shows which companies own the most Apple stock. Here, Morningstar is actually showing you fund ownership. So let's say we're interested in investing in Apple stock, but I also want to invest in a fund. I can actually use this to find funds that own Apple, and then Morningstar will show me the ratings for those funds. So in this case, this Fidelity 500 index might be of interest. It's a 5-star rated fund that actually owns Apple stock. So that could be a really good way to invest in this, along with a bunch of other stuff to build a diversified portfolio. So if we head back to the top, we'll see if we search for ETFs, we get similar information. We can see both the star rating and whether or not it has a bronze, silver, or gold medal. Morningstar also assigns these process, people, and parent ratings to its funds. One thing I really like is you can look at the investment style. So this covers small, mid, or large cap stocks, and whether it's value, blend, or growth investments within the fund. Again, there's a Morningstar analysis here. This is, again, a really nice research report written by Morningstar analysts. Gives you a great overview of what's in the fund, why they do or don't like the fund, and why they've given it the rating that they have. Another feature I think is really worthwhile is this comparables tab. This allows you to compare directly the fund, the ETF or mutual fund that you're looking at against other ETFs and mutual funds in the same category. So you can look at Morningstar's rating, whether or not those funds have metals, and these process, people, parent, and sustainability ratings. It's a really nice, quick way to get an idea of whether the fund that you're looking at is the best fund in a category. You can also look at performance in terms of price versus net asset value and total return over different periods, as well as trailing returns over different time frames. So again, just a really nice in-depth look at ETFs and mutual funds that give you an idea of whether these funds are something you want to include in your portfolio. So now let's take a look at the Morningstar screener. Morningstar has separate screeners for stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds. So let's start with the stock screener. One thing I like is that there's a lot of qualitative filters in the Morningstar screener. So for example, we look at stocks by style, whether they're growth or value, and small, mid, or large cap. You can also look by sector and industry, by Morningstar rating and economic mode. And this is a really great combination. We can recreate that sort of 5-star wide moat list that Morningstar offers as a default. Really great way to find just stocks that are very worthwhile to invest in immediately. Of course, there's also performance metrics, valuation metrics, and price to fair value comparisons. Not a huge amount of filters, especially compared to things like FinViz. Free tool with a great screener. Highly recommend checking that out. But these qualitative filters and Morningstar's ratings make this screener really useful for finding standout stocks that are worth adding to your portfolio. The ETF and mutual fund screeners are similar. What I like is you can look at these asset classes, so what types of assets it invests in, as well as different Morningstar categories. So these are all sorts of different groupings by country or continent, by whether by the type of asset or sector that these funds invest in, whether they invest in stocks, bonds, currencies, or something else. Quick way to narrow down your search to just the type of ETF or mutual fund that you're looking for. And of course, again, we can use Morningstar ratings and fee filters to narrow down to just the best funds that fit your portfolio. So Morningstar does have some built-in charting features, but they're not super helpful in my experience. So what these allow you to do are add multiple stocks, ETFs, or mutual funds all on the same chart. So you can compare their price or returns over time. This is nice, but to me it pales in comparison to the visualization tools that FinViz offers for free. I really like FinViz's bubble charts. You can look at a much wider range of fundamental metrics compared across stocks, either across the whole market or within an individual sector. I just find that it's a little bit more detailed and a little bit more actionable than these price return charts that Morningstar offers. However, these can be helpful. It's a nice tool to have. So one area where Morningstar shines is in its portfolio analysis tools. So I've got a portfolio here, and if we dive into this X-ray feature, this is what I think is really cool. So we're looking at this, it doesn't look that exciting. We're looking at a breakdown of assets by asset class, sector, world region, as well as equity style. So again, these small, mid, large cap or value, core, growth. But what you don't see here is that I have ETFs in this portfolio, and Morningstar is actually pulling the stocks out of those ETFs and including them in this analysis. And it does the same thing for mutual funds. So we're looking at stocks that are contained as individual stocks and then inside ETFs and mutual funds, all on the same analysis plane here. This is really cool, and I have not found another software that does this easily. It makes it a lot easier to see if my portfolio is actually diversified, if I'm investing in a mix of stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds. Whereas most software, it's really only easy to look at diversification if you're only investing in individual stocks. So this is a huge advantage to Morningstar if you are a mixed investor who buys both individual stocks and funds in your portfolio. And another cool tool along these lines that Morningstar offers is a stock intersection. So we can see here, I have shares of Amazon stock. Some of those are individual shares of Amazon, and some of those are coming from this Fidelity 500 index ETF. This stock intersection tab allows you to dive into your portfolio and see where the stocks in your portfolio actually are coming from. So again, really cool that you have this ability to analyze stocks and funds on the same plane. And the last thing I want to show you is just this markets tab within Morningstar. This isn't anything groundbreaking, but what I like about it is this global market barometer. So this actually is a good breakdown of where there are opportunities in different parts of the world. So we can look at Europe, South America, East Asia to see how markets have performed in those areas and whether there might be opportunities outside the US that investors are missing. It's a really great encouragement for investors who have always invested in the US to start looking abroad, investing in emerging markets, and Morningstar gives you all the tools you need to invest in those markets using ETFs and mutual funds. So who is Morningstar for? In my opinion, it's a great tool for long-term investors who want to build a diversified portfolio, and particularly a portfolio that includes a mix of stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds. You can use it as just a stock investor or just a fund investor, but where it really shines is for investors who invest in all three asset classes. It is worth noting that there are some similarities between Morningstar and platforms like Seeking Alpha and Stock Rover. I would say that Morningstar's research reports have some similarity to the contributor op-eds within Seeking Alpha. They kind of dive into the ins and outs of a stock, give you an idea of whether there's a bull case or a bear case to be made for it. However, Seeking Alpha doesn't have the same portfolio tools that Morningstar offers, and it's much more geared to short-term investors who are investing on timeframes of 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years at the longest. Morningstar is much more focused on where stocks and funds will be 5-10 years from now. So a very big difference that way. Morningstar does have some similarities to Stock Rover in that both let you analyze stocks. I would say Stock Rover is actually a lot more in-depth in how it looks at fundamental analysis and what it lets you do in terms of building your own fair value analyses. Morningstar is just a lot easier to use. If you just want to find stocks quickly and you want ideas that you can act on right away, Morningstar is a lot better for that. Stock Rover is going to take a lot more time to build a custom strategy, test it out, and then find stocks that meet that strategy. So I think Morningstar is a really good middle ground for investors of all skill levels to put together a long-term portfolio and then monitor it over time. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about the pricing for Morningstar. So Morningstar Investor, which is the subscriber platform, is $34.95 per month or $249 per year. I think that's a pretty fair price, and it's not going to create a big dent for any investors who have about $10,000 or more in their portfolio. Overall, I think Morningstar Investor is a really great analysis software, and it really stands out for long-term investors who are investing in a combination of stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds all in the same portfolio and need a way to manage that.